attention as we should? That's why Capuchin TV is bringing you this health program every Friday, starting from 9 a.m. to help you embark on the journey to wellness and living a healthy life. It is important to point out that mental health is more about wellness than sickness. Self-care is not selfish. Some of the factors that can make a big difference in health wellness are diet, enough rest, exercise,
mental health. Well, as we talk about our mental health, we remember the month of June is celebrated or is set aside for creating awareness on Men Mental Health Month. And of course, in the studio, I'm being joined by a very good gentlemen, two gentlemen and one lady, of which they'll be introducing themselves in just a few. But before that, I just want to give you a brief thing about our mental health. That is, mental health is very important to everyone, anywhere and everywhere. This is because mental illness can impact performance in school, relationship, and also self-esteem. What do we mean by mental health? Why is it important to create awareness on this? And why is it important also to, tell our friends why we need to make sure that our mental health is very important, whether in our working places, whether in school, anywhere you are at. And in case you have any question to our guests today, you can do that on 0717-424-866, or you can use our SMS number, that is 21760. A very good morning. Welcome to the conversation. How are you?
Well, thank you, Maureen.
How do you feel being here at Capuchin TV?
It's quite a privilege being, at this wonderful place, and I'm looking forward to this exciting discussion ahead.
Welcome. And I think because it's the very first time we are having you here, and of course they don't know where you are from, I think we're going to begin with the lady. Or because it's mental health.
It's our month, so we are donating to her. She can begin.
Okay, no problem. I think we're going to start on my far end. Tell our viewer what's your name and what do you do.
All right. So good morning to our viewers. My name is Ivy Murugi. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession and the team lead for a mental health initiative under the Kenya Scouts Association called Scouts Healing Visible Wounds. It's a pleasure to be here today morning.
Welcome. Thank you so much, Ivy. Moving on.
My name is Kasmir Njeru Lutere. I am an ambassador with Scouts Healing Visible Wounds, and I'm also a certified counselor.
Thank you, Kasmir.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, last but not least.
Thank you for even confirming that. My name is Makoha Pius. I'm also a counseling psychologist, and I'm the lead psychologist for the team, and also act as the capacity building officer, ensuring that this team is up to the task. We enhancing our capacity to serve other people in need of mental health services. So it's a great pleasure being here, and I really look forward.
Thank you so much. It's nice having you here. Actually, this is the very first time we are having more than two people in the set for the mental health conversation. So karibuni sana, and thank you for making time to our Health Corner show. Well, you talked about you're from the Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds Foundation or project. What is it all about? I think you can tell our viewers.
All right. So Scouts Healing Visible Wounds is a mental health initiative, as I said, under the Kenya Scouts Association. So we started off in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's because we had seen the effects that the COVID-19 pandemic had on young people. So we felt that there was need to reach out to them with psychosocial support, and also to teach them basic skills like resilience for them to be able to make it past the pandemic. So when we started off, interestingly, it was just supposed to be a 10-month initiative, but our audience was very receptive of the kind of content that we were offering them, so they kept pestering us what's next after the online webinars we are doing, because that's what we basically focused on. So as things opened up, as the stringent measures eased, we had to go back to the table and see what else can we be able to do for young people in terms of mental health. And we looked at the Kenyan context. We were able to identify all the gaps that exist in terms of mental health and narrowed down to the ones that we would want to address. So one was on awareness and understanding of what mental health is. That is lacking amongst our population. So we find that is a lot of stigma being relayed on mental health. So it makes it hard for those that want to access these mental health services to come out because they're afraid of that discrimination. And the other gap we saw that the affordability of mental health services, things like therapy, it's pretty expensive in Kenya. So you look at a young person that is undergoing struggles and they're like, spending 2,000 for a therapy session, and I have to do countless of them for me to be able to get to a place of standing on my own. And just having a drink that is way less. What do I go for as a young person? So we tried to see how can we be able to make now these services affordable to those that need it. And the third gap we identified was the lack of capacity building trainings on mental health. So you find that there are people that are passionate about this topic and they want to create awareness, but they're doing it from a point of oblivion, no background at all. So sometimes they end up doing more harm than good with the population that they're actually serving. And also that also leaves a mental health workforce that is a bit strained, because you have to see so many clients at the end of the day because we are actually few. So having identified those gaps, we decided to now use an informal approach in terms of our advocacy and awareness work, and now to use evidence-based and innovative solutions to sort of tackle the mental health challenges that young people are predisposed to. So we came up with a very beautiful program that has been running for 2 years now, and I think 6 months. Yeah, it's been pretty successful. Maybe you don't want me to talk about the programs right now or later on?
Maybe we can do that later on.
Okay.
But thank you for giving us what is the project all about,
Sure.
and why was it important to have this project. And I'm sure, Kashmir, you've been for the 2 years and almost 6 months you've talked about. How has the journey been?
I would say it has been quite exciting, because in the first place, I was not even part of maybe something to do with mental health. But when they began the program, because we were the first people they trained to be psychosocial first aiders, psychological first aiders, sorry. So we came in as people who are getting trained to do something that is impactful to the community. Because in the first place, I remember I went through something I could say as depression or stress between 2020, because of maybe what was happening. We were all indoors.
COVID-19 pandemic.
There was no one who was going out and what have you. So I got an experience, first-hand experience of what it means to be maybe in depression and to have no one to talk to. So I opted to be the person someone can come to when they need help. But I had to start somewhere. I had to be trained and I had to know how to handle someone. But in the first place, I had to know how to take care of myself. So that's where I came in and became one of the first people they trained. And we became ambassadors of mental health for Scouts Healing Visible Wounds.
Wow.
So far, so good, I would say.
Okay. Thank you. And moving on to Piers, I'm sure you also have something to add on whatever your team and your colleagues have mentioned. And I think because our topic today is youth and mental health, and I'm sure the Scouts, most of them are between the age of the youth and adolescents. So I think you can take that question, who is a youth, and of course tell us about the journey being in the Scouts Invisible Healing Wounds.
Thank you for the question. And also, like you said, my colleagues have really brought out the picture in a very clear way. But just to add a bit, for me, I want to say that the journey has been so wonderful. When Ivy was sharing, when we started, for us, we were just to do for a short period, like 8 months, 9 months. Then we go back to our other activities. But the requests were really overwhelming of young people saying, you should not stop these programs. We have benefited. And we have very, very many success stories of young people who really benefited. Every time we have an activity, they'll come up, they're the first ones. When we are having the mental health trails and whatever, they're there to support us. So it gives us the encouragement. And we said, yes, if these young people can trust us and they really, depending on whatever we are doing, the best thing we can do right now is to use our talents and use our time that we have to ensure that we give more, and even the skills that we have. And most of us is that, yes, like you've heard, we have a background of counseling. So we are sharing that skill, we are sharing that knowledge we've acquired in school for the betterment of that young person. But again, it also begins with me. I have to be well so that I can help the other person.
Very true.
When it comes to the issue of youth, globally there is no common term that we have really agreed. Like, this is now a youth person, a youth, this is how they should be. But there are those characteristics or traits that are really common. All over, we know a youth is someone who is energetic, someone outgoing, someone who looks young, and what have you. But when it comes to the Kenyan context, of course, a youth is someone between the ages of 18 to 35. That is what the Constitution defines as a young person, a youth. But when you go to the UN, they define a youth, a young person between the age of 15 to 24. So there are a bit of changes, differences here and there. But now, because we're in Kenya, I think we'll use so much the Kenyan context. A young person between 18 to 35. So that is a youth. And of course, like I said, there are people with a lot of energy, people who are vigorous, outgoing, and they look young, and they are future oriented, they are risk takers in the good way. So that is what I will define as a youth.
Okay.
Yes.
If you do have something to add on whatever Pius has talked about.
No, I think I'd just relate it maybe to today's topic, why we are so specific on looking at the young people. So us starting off the project during the COVID-19 pandemic was because we were looking at what happens after the pandemic. So we need, if at all we are looking at recovery and getting back to, for example, in terms of things like economy, we need a population that is actually mentally well for us to be able to get past these, and also prepare ourselves in terms of building our resilience so that if another pandemic comes, we are able to sail through it. So the mental health topic, and especially for the young people, is a very important one because it's a period where you're going through so much, I think. You're in school, so there's a lot of academic pressure, peer pressure as well comes in, and you get exposed to a lot of things, a lot of new environments. You finish school, you're graduating, you're supposed to find employment. Sometimes it becomes very hard. You're trying to start off some businesses, they're failing. Your parents back at home are expecting you to start a family, So there's a lot of pressure. You're trying to gather assets for yourself and make that life that you've always envisioned as a child. So the stressors that they are exposed to are a lot. So we need to be able to support them, ensure that they have a place where they can always lean back on when things are very difficult, but also help them to develop resilience to be able to sail through whatever life stress has brought them. So these are very important topic, and these are population that needs to be taken care of when it comes to their mental health. Yeah.
Okay, and Casimir, what do you understand by mental health?
I would say mental health is the well-being of the mind. How do you interact with people socially? How is your mind operating around people? How do you view things, and how does your mind operate when you are facing troubles and any other issue? Because in terms of looking at mental health affects, if your mental well-being is not okay, you might be looking okay physically, but what is inside? And that's why there is the Scouts healing invisible wounds. There is the invisible wound in having a mental health issue that cannot be seen. If today I fall down and I hurt my knee, that is a visible wound. But in mental health, there is the invisibility of a wound that is maybe hurting someone, or someone is going through something that cannot be seen. So in terms of mental health, is getting to understand how someone interacts or operates internally with what cannot be seen physically. Yes.
Like we can talk about depression, we have anxiety, of which I think you mentioned when we began you were a victim of depression.
Yes.
So have you ever maybe had mental health issues or you don't want to talk about?
The interesting thing is the Scouts Healing Visible Wounds team, the inner one, we're 7 of us besides the 35 ambassadors we have. And there's a time we were actually just having some sort of sharing, and we discovered that we are doing these projects voluntarily because we all have personal stories. So either things that we've personally gone through or things we have witnessed our family members and friends go through. So that is the passion that keeps us going despite us facing many challenges in terms of implementing this initiative. On a personal level, yes, I've also had a period, although mine was when I was in high school, so I didn't even have an understanding of what exactly was happening. And you know, with adolescents, sometimes you'll assume, oh, it's the hormones, the changes happening in the body. So it was not until I started my undergraduate in counseling psychology, and we had a unit called abnormal psychology, where we were looking at the symptoms for the different mental illnesses, and I was like, wait, I am meeting the criteria for this. So yeah, I also had a phase, and it's the support that I received from friends that helped me to get through that successfully. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Ivy. And I think moving on to you, Pius, how common is this mental health? Because I'm sure you've been able to interact with very few people in your foundation, your project. How would you say, how common is it? And of course in Kenya?
First of all, having a mental issue is not a problem. We all have mental issues, all of us. But there is a difference between a mental health issue and a mental health disorder. Now that is different. Now that is very extreme. But having simple things like acute stress, being stressed, it's very normal. So we should not make it as if having a mental health issue, it's a big thing. No, it's part of life. But that's why we are having these coping mechanisms. So on average, from statistics, they say 1 in 4 people are like estimated to have a mental health issue. 1 in 4. So all of us, we are 4 of us here. At least we are sure that
one person here.
Yes.
Must not be me.
Yeah, at least that one. You know, it's given, and they say 1 in 5 they are expected to have a mental health issue in their lifetime. Yes, you can imagine if you are 5 of you in a family. Now you're expecting, like, out of all those people, 1 of you. Okay, so it still goes back to the homestead. And recently, I think the year 2021 or 2020, I think 2021, when WHO gave us some statistics, and Kenya, as a country, we were ranked number 4 in the continent of Africa with the most depressed people. And it was estimated that we had 1.9 million Kenyans with depression alone. Okay? So that tells you that we have a lot of people who are going through mental issues. And mark you, these are people who probably have gone to a hospital and they've been diagnosed. How many people are walking in the streets living with mental issues without them knowing? Because, like my friend has said, these are invisible issues. Yes, we can't see them. It's others who might be able to see. But of course, because we are living in this world whereby I can't come to you and tell you, hey, you look different, because I fear the reaction. I will not come, okay, unless we are that close friends. Okay, so, and yes, like you asked the question about the statistics. I think we are not doing well as a country, and we really need to do a lot. And you know, actually, what caught my attention is the issue of Kenya being number 9 globally. You know, imagine being number 9 globally with a country of the most depressed people. It really tells a lot. And that's why this conversation has to start with the young people, because again, the estimation is the biggest burden of these mental health issues being carried by the young people. And that's why we as young people, we are trying to bring this conversation. How can we have this conversation with our fellow young people so that we can create those safe spaces? Okay, so when a young person is coming to me, they don't look at me as an old person. We can identify in some of those things, but we can be able to create professional therapeutic relationship to help the person.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think this goes to Casimir on that statistics that Pius has talked about on the mental health in Kenya being ranked at number 9 globally. Do you feel that we're not paying attention, or could it be ignorance? Could it be that we're not creating awareness to young people and even to parents, because I'm sure they deal with the youth and the kids, and of course even maybe the schools, the teachers?
To be honest, I would say we are not where we're supposed to be, but a lot has been done. A lot is still being done, and I would refer to there was a bill passed by the Ministry of Health, whereby they have brought concept on mental health, whereby the World Health Organization was even offering certifications for people who are interested in getting trained to be people who can work on mental health programs and what have you. So the government also has come in to be able to bring in the aspect of mental health among the people in Kenya. So I would say we are not where we're supposed to be, but people are really working on mental health, and there's a lot being done. Yes.
And of course, I congratulate the Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds, because you're the number one ambassadors of the mental health. And who are more affected by this mental health? Is it the female or the male? Ivy.
So interestingly, when we look at a specific aspect of mental health like suicide, women report more cases of suicidal ideations, like entertaining the idea of wanting to take your life when you feel like everything is overwhelming and you're hopeless and helpless. So women report more of these cases. But when it comes to the actual acts, men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide. And this is because men they go for the most lethal means to ensure that they complete their mission. But women will be like, they look for something a bit softer, so their cases are not more as much as I have more of the ideations. So that is in terms of the gender. In terms of looking at the youth in general, a young person as young as the age of 15 years can get a diagnosis of a mental illness. So we're not looking at it being just a disease that gets diagnosed when somebody is an adult. It can start right from this adolescence period. That's why I was bringing out the aspect of us not assuming that it's just an adolescence phase they're going through. It could be something more. So yeah. When you look at the gender, in terms of now the rest of the illnesses, it's a balance. And now that's where the aspect of what exactly could lead to a mental illness comes in. That one could now cut across any of the genders. Yes.
Yes, I can see you want to add on something.
Maybe just to add. Yes, I like her point. And it's not like specific, the issue of gender, knowing which gender is most affected, goes with a specific mental illness. Yes. So it's not like something that is there. We can't just say this is men or female are most affected. Yes, maybe the issue of suicide, that is true, but we can't just say now anxiety is mostly affected by women or men. It's not given because there are different other factors. Yes, and just to add on the issue that she shared on age. Again, the WHO estimates that 50% of mental illnesses manifest by the age of 14. So this is an adolescent, right? Yeah, sure. And by the age of 24 or 25, 75% of all mental illnesses are manifested. So if you look at it, it's something that is touching on the youth bracket. And that's why we need to have most of these conversations so that they don't get into the adulthood with mental health issues. Yes. Okay. So yes, the issue of age really plays a factor in this.
So that tells us we should all pay attention
to
mental health. Okay, all right. And I think Pius mentioned about mental illness. Kashmir, tell us, what are some of the mental illness that affects the youth?
I would say there's a lot behind it. There's the issue of stress, whereby you find someone being disturbed because of an issue maybe that happened to them. There's an example of where someone loses a loved one, I'd say. So if personally I get to grief or someone else, there is the aspect of going through something. Maybe the person was the breadwinner, so now someone starts wondering, now who is coming to take part in getting to maybe provide or be part of me, support me. So there is what we call stress. There is the aspect of grief, where someone is going through loss. There is also the aspect of getting to be maybe, I would say maybe suffering from maybe what I would say
Breakups, you know, the
breakups.
user.
Yeah,
What about the breakup
relationships
issues?
maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually looking for that.
Because
Yeah.
most
So
of the
there's
youth
yeah,
are in the
relationships.
relationships.
Yeah, yeah.
Relationships and finances.
Correct.
And that brings the aspect of unemployment too. And the issue of academic pressure at school. It's either you're doing a course that your parents want you to do, or you're doing a course that you later realize that this is not my course, or you're struggling somehow. There's a lot of pressure, especially among the young people. Yes.
Okay.
The bullying also in schools is very high. Bullying.
All right, and I think I read something on Twitter on the finance issue, and someone was talking about until the housing bill finance was brought in, they are now mentally, emotionally damaged. And of course, you know, the young people share their stories through social media, because sometimes they are afraid to come to a person like you, maybe Ivy, to tell their personal life, whatever they're going through. So sometimes they pass through the message through the social media, because people just laugh about it and life goes on.
Yeah.
True.
What do you have to say about that before we take a break?
I think it's something I would definitely encourage, because the more you get to speak out, the more you get some sort of clarity about your issue. Because sometimes you go through a phase of something and it feels like it's the end for you. But when you're able to share it out, you might actually get ideas from people. For example, if it's about the finances, you'll get somebody suggesting something like get an extra source of income, you know, have some financial discipline, so you're able to have like a savings plan. So you're able to get all these ideas the moment that you're sharing. But you keep it to yourself, you just get feelings of being overwhelmed, and now leads you to stress, to depression, and so the issues now get to pile up. So that's the use of social media. If that's where they feel like they can vent out and maybe get suggestions and support, then I would encourage them to go for that. Yeah.
All right. And I think with that a comment from Ivy, we're going to take a very short break. But when we come back, we shall talk about what are some of the signs and symptoms. And of course, you mentioned about parents and the teachers in school, the lecturers, and of course your friends. How can they help one to make sure their mental well-being is well preserved and they're good to go with their daily lives? And of course, with that, we're going to take a very short break right here on our Health Corner show with me, Maureen Kimani. And in the studio, we are having Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds team leaders and experts in the mental health field. And with that, in case you still have any question about mental health and of course concerning the youth part, you can do that in our SMS number and of course in our phone number, that is 0717-424-866 or 21760. And with that, let's take a very short break. We'll be right back in just a few. Stay tuned.
Your health and wellness are the most important things in your life. It impacts on how everything else happens and is received by you. Most of the times, do we give it much attention as we should? That's why Capuchin TV is bringing you this health program every Friday, starting from 9 a.m. to help you embark on the journey to wellness and living a healthy life. It is important to point out that mental health is more about wellness than sickness. Self-care is not selfish. Some of the factors that can make a big difference in health wellness are diet, enough rest, exercise, posture, and avoiding use of alcohol. Enjoy this conversation with me, Maureen Kimani, every Friday from 9 a.m. on our Health Corner show here at Capuchin TV. Your health is your wealth.
show right here on Capuchin TV with me, Maureen Kimani, having a conversation on youth and mental health. And in the studio, I'm being joined by 3 guests. That is on my far right. We have Ivy Murugi, who is a team lead. Moving on, we have Kashmir Rutere, a mental health advocate. And last but not least, just the person seated right next to me, we have Makoha Pius, who is a lead psychologist. And of course, they're from the Scouts are Healing Invisible Wounds, of which in our first part, we've been able to see what is this project all about, our foundation all about, and what are some of the activities that they engage themselves with. And of course, moving on this issue on youth and mental health, we're going to continue with the conversation because we've been able to see what are some of the mental illness that affect youth, and of course, how should we pay attention to these mental illness and of course mental health issues, and not forgetting that the month of June is mental health month, and we say that take care of your brother, take care of your nephew, of course, and with that, we're going to create a very good environment for our mental well-being with our friends and of course with our families. And with that, welcome back to a second part.
Thank
of
you.
the show.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about what are some of the main causes that affect this mental health, especially the youths. I think Pius, you can take that.
We have a number of factors that will cause mental health issues, especially among the youths. And the list is not limited to what we are going to share, okay? Have a number of them. But the most prominent one comes about with issues to do with the relationships. There's the heartbreaks, there are conflicts, miscommunications within relationships. You come into a relationship expecting this, then you get this, okay? Issues to do with financial constraints, unemployment, and what have you. This is the age whereby they want to do almost everything. And you know, before you do something, it has the financial implication. Either you're coming from a humble background where you're not able to sustain yourself or able to finance your activities and what have you. You're a student or you have a young family. That brings in a lot of issues, conflicts here and there. Sometimes that will lead to even the violence within families, especially the young families. There is also the issue of bullying in schools. So many students are bullied in schools, whether it is in secondary schools or even colleges. They are bullied. And there's the aspect of cyberbullying also, where people are, their private rights are being violated online. And there is also the issue of stress. Stress is a normal thing. It happens to all of us. But how do we manage our stress? So that is the biggest thing. You find that most of the young people, the youths, they will use they will use substance, okay? They will use drugs as a way of coping, which of course leads to another issue, that is addiction and what have you. And there is also the issues of parent-child, conflict, sort of. There is a lot of misagreement between a parent and their child, because there is what the child wants and there is what the parent wants. And as knowing that, these are two people from different generations, how we are looking at things is different from how a parent is looking at things. You find that a child wants to do this course. For example, I was sharing with my friend who is now a fashionista, and the parents wants that child to be like an engineer or a pilot. That will bring in a lot of conflict, because for them they see that as what they want. That is what they identify themselves with. So you find that this parent start bringing issues at home and what have you. There is the issue of social media. Addiction to social media, our phones. You find that out of the 24 hours, a young person is spending around 18 hours on phone. So that means they are not being productive in other areas. They are not being physically active, okay? And that also leads to the mental issues. So there's a number of things that makes these young people, the youths especially, to be very vulnerable to mental issues, okay? Yes. And of course, I will not finish that without having the aspect of young people comparing themselves with the others. It's like, my friend is now employed, they are driving, I'm not driving. You know, you start comparing yourself and start looking at yourself as a failure and what have you. This is bringing in a lot of issues, and that leads even to the suicide bit of it, where my friend was also sharing. So the list is endless, but I think for me those are the most common issues that come up, especially within that age cohort of the youth, 18 to 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw either you were getting your microphone ready to speak.
Yeah, I think I just had something to add on the social media. There's also the aspect of comparing yourself with other people. Most of us, when you do post, will honestly not show us going through struggles. We always want to show the beautiful side, the successes, the places we are traveling to, the big wins that we are having. Nobody really posts about bad things happening to them. So if you're a young person that gets onto that social media handle and you now want to start comparing yourself to people posting good things while all the bad is happening to you, that could definitely be a trigger. Yeah.
Okay. And I think because most of the youths have Facebook account, they have YouTube, TikTok, name them all, and you may find that a lot of maybe content that is displayed on the internet. Someone is going to Dubai, someone is going to South Africa, yourself, you've never even stepped out of the country, not even going to Mombasa. And you find also maybe when you do a post, people troll you. How can you maybe deal with these social media trolls?
I would say when they mention social media, I happen to be one who earns through social media management and what have you. And one thing I've realized is most young people are using social media as an object of approval, which means if I don't get 92,000 likes, my friend has 1 million, or my friend has 100,000, and I only have 5 likes, then my self-esteem goes down because of seeking approval from social media. Let's say I want to start a business, and social media now, the business I've started doesn't have even 50 likes. So if I take social media as an object of approval to be able to start what I want to start, then I might be doing nothing on my side, because I feel like if social media doesn't approve, then I'm not good enough. So you find that for social media, I take it as garbage in, garbage out. What you feed yourself through the social media is what you give out. Secondly, social media can be a tool to assist you to be able to handle mental health issues, because all information on how to handle stress, how to find a psychologist, how to talk to someone is online. On the other hand, the negativity of social media is also available. So I take it as you have a choice of what you want to consume, but also the social media exposes us to some of the triggers that bring about what we go through in terms of social media. So I would say when people are consuming social media, be careful of what you're using and what you're consuming. There is also the aspect of what they mentioned about child bullying and online bullying, cyberbullying in general. You need to consider that what other people approve of you is not what other people see about you. Because someone might body shame you, but there is someone elsewhere and many other people who look at you and say, I wish I was like her. I wish I had the same courage as her. So social media sometimes gets to take away our esteem, which shouldn't, because it should not be an object of approval. And someone was saying, if you look at social media, it has the two sides I mentioned, where there is negativity and positivity, where you can get what you want and what you feel like you need, but also be careful on what you consume. Yeah.
Very true, because I've ever even seen celebrities taking a break from social media just to have a good mental health, well-being. Okay. You want to add something?
Social media is a big thing, and the other day we were having a conversation with my friend, and I was just asking him, how many of your followers do you know? As in, have you ever interacted with? You have like 10,000 followers. Have you ever interacted with each one of them? Maybe not. Maybe it's up to, the maximum could be maybe 100. Okay, so why do you expect to, depend on the approval of these other people who've never met you? They don't know you. What they're just giving is just an assumption that you're a good person or you're a bad person. Or they're also using that social media for the business. It's also a business. If I comment something negative about you, it means that I'm going to become popular or famous. People are going to, follow me for my content and what have you. But you're using it in the wrong way. Okay.
Sure.
Yes. So it's a good place, but a bad place. But like my colleague has said, it's up to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
to
a
decide.
choice.
Yeah.
I think I would add on one thing
Okay,
that
go
he
ahead.
has really brought out. There's the aspect of the person shaming you or the person trolling you. Interestingly, the person could be bringing out the insecurities instead of even attacking you. They are not even talking about you, they're talking about themselves.
Themselves.
But they're not brave enough to talk about themselves. So they reflect the same to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And moving on, I think the gentlemen have been talking a lot on this social media thing. I think you're very active on that.
Yes, we are.
Okay, this goes to you, Ivy. What are some of the signs and symptoms of health issues among the youths?
So when you're looking at the signs and symptoms, I think you can look at them in three ways because it affects your thoughts, it affects your feelings, and it affects your behavior. And it's interesting to note that people exhibit these symptoms in different ways. What you might reflect will be different from somebody else. So in terms of your behavior, somebody's performance goes down. So whether it was their workplace, their productivity goes down. If it's in terms of school, work, they start dropping in their subjects. Behavior, there are those that will go to the extent of self-harming. So they want to cut themselves as an outlet for doing that. There are those that will get into binging on different things. So they are binge drinking, they are binge eating. It's not a good way to cope. There are those that will get into substance use, which was previously not there, or if it was present, then it doubles up. In terms of their cognition, somebody is not able to concentrate in terms of what they're doing. They're not able to process information instantly. They're not able to have like a flow of ideas. It's some sort of a block comes to your mind, and you're indecisive. You're not able to make decisions like spot on. Your creativity goes down. And then in terms of your emotions, irritability, apathy, anger, random outbursts that were not present before. You want to self-isolate, you don't want to be around people. Yeah, so there's just generally like a change. But on a general as well, in terms of behavior, there are those whose sleeping and eating patterns will also change. So either go on the higher side of sleeping too much and eating too much, or the other side of eating too little and sleeping too little. Constant fatigue. And then when it becomes extreme now, that's when we get to places where somebody starts to have even suicidal ideations. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they have more to add.
Yes.
We can't exempt the list, it's so large.
Yeah, just to add on whatever she has said, I think for me, what stands out of all these symptoms is the issue of, like she mentioned, sleep and appetite. And the diversion, either increase or lowering, without any particular reason. Now again, if you're sick, definitely your appetite is going to go down.
Sure.
Okay. If you go to gym, definitely appetite is going to shoot somehow. So there is an explanation why. But for you, you're just working, you're doing your things normally, then you feel like your appetite has gone down, or your sleep is not, you're sleeping for 2 hours. Scientifically, they recommend 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
Are you, of course, and for us, we say there's an error of plus or minus 1. So I don't know if people are safe, but we stick to 6 to 8 hours. So are you sleeping within that? Sleeping 2 hours and you feeling okay, it's not good. Maybe there's something that is affecting you that you will want to have a discussion on. So for me, there are 3 things that really stands out for symptoms. 1 is the issue of sleep. 2, appetite. 3, the sexual urges. Yes, I know people don't like talking about that, but it's there. especially among couples and the youth. You find that we all know ourselves. We know how our sexual life, we know it. Normal, this is how it is. But if you find that there is an sudden increase, again, without clear explanation why, or a decrease, the issues with the libido and all those things, you have stress, again, it's connected to libido. It means your urges are going to go down. Yes. So having a look at that also can tell you have a partner, for example, you're married. Then you know how you do your things. Okay. Then all of a sudden you feel like, there's an increase. That should be a signal that you two need to sit down and just discuss your things. But it's an area that most people don't like talking about, and we ignore it. But it's a very key symptom for me. And then the issue of social withdrawing. You feel like you want to do your things just by your side, by yourself. You don't want to interact with people, losing pleasure in things you used to enjoy. Okay. For example, you used to go for this particular joint and used to enjoy some soft drinks there with friends and what have you. All of a sudden, you don't find pleasure in that. You used to go out to watch football, to watch whatever game you enjoy doing, but all of a sudden, you don't feel like that could be, a signal. Again, we are not saying that is depression. We are not saying that is anxiety. We are only saying that is a signal. It's a signal that you might be going through a mental health issue. For you to confirm whether it's depression, anxiety, and what have you, there is a test. And mental health, psychology is a science. Science really relies so much on testing and, results. We need to test you so that we can say, yes, now this is depression. But you can't just, because I'm now having issues with my sleep, this is depression. I can't eat well, or I've started eating a lot. No. I think that is the biggest message for me.
Don't self-diagnose.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I was to ask you about the behavioral changes. How long, because I'm sure sometimes you just wake up and then you have mood swings, you just want to be alone, but you can't say, because someone wants to be alone maybe for some few hours, they're having some mental or maybe depression. How long do you observe on these behavioral changes?
It goes again with a different, there is a different criteria for all these mental health disorders or illnesses. Like for depression, mostly they say within like 2 weeks constantly. So you find that week 1, out of the 7 days, you're finding that you're isolating yourself. Out of the 7, maybe 5 days or 4 days, most of the days. Again, week 2, the same thing. That could be a signal that there is something that you really need to deal with. So in short, you feeling like you want your time, like my me time, it's not bad. But is it really consistent? Okay? And is it affecting your normal way of functioning? Okay? If I'm really withdrawing from, maybe from this project, like 1 week, 2nd week, then they need to sit down and, have a conversation with me, because that means that there is something that is troubling my mind that I need to deal with. Yes. So there is that, but it keeps on varying. But commonly, it's if those symptoms are persistent and consistent for a period of 6 months, commonly 6 months, 2 weeks to 6 months, that should be, a red flag for you. Yes. Okay.
And I think because we've been talking about the signs, the symptoms, are there some preventive measures that can be put to avoid with all these mental illness?
You want to take it? Okay. So I think on a general, I'd first start by saying intentionality is key in all of this. Becoming intentional about taking care of your mental well-being. Because you take care of your well-being, it reflects in all other aspects of your life. So yes, we do have coping strategies that a person can employ in their daily lives to ensure that they're mentally well. And the most basic being things like exercising. It's very important because you're able to release feel good and happy hormones that are good for your well-being. We have eating a healthy diet, so ensure, nutritious diet, and also making sure that you're doing water. We have people that find joy in doing journaling, so just writing down your thoughts and expressing it by writing. We have those that find comfort in spending time in nature, so if that's for you, taking walks, going on hikes, do that. Having a very strong social network. people that you know you can be real with in terms of how you feel, because you're speaking about invisible wounds. So you cannot go telling the whole world that I'm going through this. And of course, even as we speak about Men's Mental Health Month, it's not easy for men to be vulnerable. But do you have that one person that you can be real with, that can be able to identify that Maureen is going down and we need to do something about it? So have somebody or people that you can be able to connect with and be real with and get support from. Also, actually ensuring that you're not using the negative coping strategies. So things like running to substance use, binge eating, binge drinking, spend thrifting on money. So if you note that you're doing any of those, make sure that you're addressing them at the same time. Do we have? We do have others.
Okay.
Among the negative coping mechanism, because we all cope. But the question is, how are you coping? Are you coping in a healthy way or unhealthy way? So you're taking alcohol because you're feeling stress. Yes, for a while, for that 1 hour, 2 hours, you won't feel that stress because you are not sober. But that will not take away the issues. There are people who do stress eating, and I like that point. Stress eating. It's very common, especially among ladies. Allow us to speak on your behalf because it is our month. Stress eating, you find that mostly you want these sweet, sugary things,
Cravings.
Yes.
Nobody binges on vegetables and fruits.
Yeah. I'm yet to find someone who wants to eat kienyeji and
vegan.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so there is that stress eating. It's an unhealthy way of coping.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And I think because time is not on our side, I think I'm going to give you maybe 1 minute. You can talk about maybe what can parents do to ensure that the youth and the kids, and of course the ones that are in adolescence, can be able to have a good mental well-being. And of course, because it's the Men's Mental Health Month, you can also give some advices for the men. What can they do if, in case they are faced with mental health issues? They don't need to feel ashamed to come in front and talk about their issues. I think we can do that right now. Starting with you, and then we end with the men.
All right, so happy Men's Mental Health Awareness, men. We definitely love you and really, really appreciate you, starting from the ones here on studio. So in terms, in speaking to the parents and guardians out there, it's very important that you go beyond providing the basic needs for your kids. So make sure that you understand them, you know how they behave on a normal, so that when something is off, you actually become aware. And especially when the family is going through things like grief and loss, and especially for the kids, we tend to ignore them, and you're focusing on, the older adults. These kids are seeing what is happening, and they're also feeling that absence of this person. So do not ignore them. Know how your child operates on a normal, so that you're able to note when something goes off, and you're able to get them to the right avenues of care. If you have an adolescent, please do not assume that it is a phase they are going through and it's their hormones. Make sure that you're able to dig deeper. If their performance is dropping in school, don't just quarrel them because they've not performed well in math. Get to find out what kind of environment do they have in school. Are they having it easy at home? Because sometimes we do recognize the fact that not all families are also functional. We have dysfunctional families. So could what you're doing as couples be affecting this person and they're carrying it on to their school? So be intentional about having conversations with your kid. If you do not have that platform, do they have somebody they can go to? An elder sister, an auntie. Don't feel guilty of not being able to have that bond with your child, as long as at the end of the day they're getting help. If you need to connect them to a therapist, please do not feel like, hey, my child is going to be going to no. It's very normal. Connect them to one if there's that need. As for men as well, we know society has taught you to toughen up, to not show your emotions, to wear this mask that you have it all figured out and you're very confident and strong. But you're human. It's okay to break. And because society is not so receptive of things like, for example, men crying in public, we're not saying that you shouldn't cry, but find that space where you know you can be yourself and let it out. If you have anything that you need to let out, have some friends or a social connection that you can be real with, as I said, that you can be able to lean back on when things get tough. Because truth is, stressors will always be present and you'll go through so much. You think you've gone through one very terrible thing and then life hits you with another bigger one that you didn't even see coming. So it will always be present. So build your resilience, practice the positive coping coping strategies. If you need to speak to someone for clarity, please do it. Get the right support and take care of yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you, Ivy.
For me, I would say we as men, mostly we don't feel comfortable talking. But I would advise that men, with those boys club, those friends you have, keep the conversation going, because it will help you in one way or another. Going back to the society, the government, the church, and schools, I'd propose for institutions to adapt the way of mentorships and mental health programs in their schools, to be able to interact with these children, to be able to grow them in a capacity that they may be able to handle even mental health issues that may face them in future. For the church, adapt programs that instill, that talk about mental health in church. Make it regular, make it normal, make it something that is ongoing. For the government, we would seek assistance for all of us who are in mental health to be able to run programs and to be able to assist people to access mental health care and services as a service, just like you going to be treated for malaria and what have you and other diseases and illnesses. So I would urge the government, the church, the society, and also parents to be able to talk to their children. Don't just Parents are usually in a hurry to take people who are using drugs to rehabs, but they are reluctant to taking these young people to maybe therapists and counselors to be able to find out what caused the person to maybe be in substance use or to bring other issues. So I would also urge parents to make friends with their children as they grow, from the little young ones to even the youths.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. Again, this being the Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, men are human beings and human beings are emotional beings. Let's acknowledge the fact that sometimes we are affected by issues and we can feel sad, we can feel like we want to cry. It's safe, it's okay, it's therapeutic to talk about it because we are all human beings. Being a man does not stop you from being emotional, does not stop you from being human being. My suggestion to the government, the church, and the community at large is that in the mental health interventions, there are three aspects that we mostly focus on. There is a promotive aspect, preventive aspect, and the curative aspect. For a long time, this conversation has been all about the curative aspect. It's time that we now have more, focus and attention to the promotive aspect and the preventive aspect. Can we have a discussion not based on depression? Depression, yes, is a disease, but how can we prevent these young people from developing that depression itself? Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you. I love that. And I think I'm just going to read some few comments. We have Austin Othiambo said, "You nailed it, guys." We have Isaac Makinya, "Good job, team." And then we have Honorable Victor Radido MP, following, "Good job, we're proud of you. Keep it up." And then we have Victor Waiter, "Beautiful work, guys." Those are just some of the few comments that I can be able to read because of the time. And I'm sure you have your contacts. How can people follow the Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds? I think you can talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So we have a wide range of programs that any young person between the ages of 10 and 29 can consume, but we also include caregivers and guardians. So please be sure to follow our social media handles. On Facebook, it's Scouts Healing Invisible Wounds. Instagram and Twitter, Healing Invisible Wounds. We do have a website, www.shu.org, and you can reach out to us via email, info@shu.org, for any inquiries you have. So in case you even want to get connected to a therapist, we do that. Please be sure to be part of our programs, be part of this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to come to the end of our conversation today, that is youth and mental health. Thank you so much for you guys making time and coming here to share your knowledge to our people, to our viewers, and of course to your friends. And that is Ivy Murugi. Thank you so much, who is the team lead. We have Casimir Rutere. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. And of course, Pius, thank you so much. And wishing you Men's mental health awareness. Hope you're going to make sure your mental well-being is well preserved.
Yes, we are very intentional about it.
Okay, thank you so much. And of course to your viewers, thank you so much for joining out this conversation. Health Corner show right here on Capuchin TV. My name is Maureen Kimani, wishing you a blessed day. See you next time.
Your health and wellness are the most important things in your life. It impacts on how everything else happens and is received by you. Most of the times, do we give it much attention as we should? That's why Capuchin TV is bringing you this health program every Friday, starting from 9 a.m. to help you embark on the journey to wellness and living a healthy life. It is important to point out that mental health is more about wellness than sickness. Self-care is not selfish. Some of the factors that can make a big difference in health wellness are diet, enough rest, exercise, posture, and avoiding use of alcohol. Enjoy this conversation with me, Maureen Kimani, every Friday from 9 a.m. on our Health Corner show here at Capuchin TV. Your health is your wealth.